And hello, flatties and globe defenders, it's Critical Thing from Down Under, and I'm with a guy today who's an internal medicine physician. He had inspiration in high school, and his science class teacher got him interested in science and turned him into a science guy. Now, for years, he's enjoyed getting to the bottom of conspiracy theories and fake news on Facebook and social media. And he only discovered Flat Earth a short while ago and started debunking what he saw was basic errors of reasoning, like things like dipping the nose of aircraft in flight because, this guy's a pilot. Now, he started to do YouTube because he enjoyed the work of other YouTubers and he wanted to get his information out there as well. He wanted to be part of this debunking community. And I'd like to introduce you today then to the one and only Bob the Science Guy. G'day, Bob.
Hey, good day. Good seeing you.
And so I've got my first question for you, Bob. Who are you?
Well, who am I? I'm just a typical northern Michigan guy. A humble vaudevillian veteran cast vicariously as both victim and villain by the vicissitudes of fate. This visage is no mere veneer of vanity, but a vision of the vox populi now vacant and vanished. However, this valorous visitation of a bygone vexation stands vivified and has vowed to vanquish those venile and virulent vermin, vanguarding vice and vouchsafing the violently vicious and voracious violations of volition. The only verdict is vengeance, a vendetta cast as a votive not in vain, for the value and veracity of which shall one day vindicate the vigilant and the virtuous. Verily, this vichyssoise verbiage grows most verbose, so let me say it is my very great honor to meet you, Critical Think, and you may call me Bob. Bob the Science Guy.
Okay, Bob, where the heck did you get that big stuff from?
I came dressed as V for Vendetta for a Halloween party about 3 years ago, and I memorized his speech. And so I always have little times I pop it out.
Okay, so I'd like to talk a little bit about you're a pilot. I don't know what kind of rating you have or anything. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your pilot experience of that?
Well, let's see. I learned to fly in Fairbanks, Alaska, and I got my instrument rating in Anchorage, Alaska, and I fly single-engine land airplanes. I travel all over the state for my work and occasionally down south and such. So I fly an old Mooney, and it's a little single-engine retractable. I'm an instrument-rated pilot, and I got 900 to 1,000 hours. So I'm a relatively new pilot, but have enough to be dangerous.
Yeah. So even though, you don't fly big commercial jets or anything, you still, as a pilot, you would be need to be aware of the shape of the Earth, wouldn't you?
Oh, most definitely. We do all of our navigation, doing long-distance navigation, you have to know the shape of the Earth.
Right. So what do you think about people that come on YouTube on these flat Earth channels and says, "Oh, I'm a pilot and I know that the Earth is flat"? What do you got to say about that?
Well, I know that they're not a pilot because mental illness is a contraindication to having an airman certificate. Anybody that would come on and claim to be a commercial pilot that doesn't understand that the Earth is spherical, has never navigated, you listen to them and they just make very obvious mistakes. They don't know how to set a gyroscope. Yeah. They don't know anything about, they don't know anything about navigation or flight planning. You ask them even a mild technical question, and they just simply can't answer it. So they're basically posers. I think that they probably just took somebody's identity that's a pilot or something or other and just are posing as pilots.
Yes. So, I mean, it's interesting to me how flat earthers just gobble this stuff up. Somebody says they're a pilot, that's obviously true. They don't even check the facts. What do you think about that? Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is I'm always amazed that I am a pilot. People like Wolfie 6020 are pilots. we obviously know what we're talking about. And when we say something, they say, well, I heard a commercial pilot that said that once. Well, okay. You've got one right here telling you otherwise. Now, where's the other one? You bring your guy and I'll have a chat with him. And we'll get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, so Wolfie 6020's had this challenge out for a long time for any flat earth pilot to show his flight plan. Oh, guess what? They haven't come forward. Huh?
Well, it amazes me too, because the flight plan that he has out, you know, I can put together in about 5 minutes. Any legitimate pilot could do that. And, you know, these people that come on out and claim to be pilots, let's have them go ahead and do it. Why can't they do it? It's not a difficult task.
No, not difficult, but for a flat earth pilot, I think that's impossible, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say for a flat earth pilot, yes, it would be. I don't think a flat earth pilot could even find Australia, much less 2 girls in a sailboat.
But not only that, if he found it, he'd run out of fuel trying to get there.
Yeah, he probably would. He couldn't find his way back. He'd end up in India or something.
So you started your channel not so long ago, and it's done exceedingly well.
Yeah, I was actually shocked.
So I
was really surprised. I had 15 subscribers on December 1st. 15. And you know, now I'm approaching 2,500 subscribers, and I had 1.2 million minutes of view time last month alone. So I mean, I really don't know what to say other than thank you guys. Right. You know, I've been doing websites for a while. I did my practice website, some other things for some friends and such. So I know a little bit about SEO, you know, search engine optimization. But I've always believed that the best way to build a website or a YouTube channel is just try and put good content out. And if it's good content, people will come find you. And I think that's what's happened here. And I think that's why the channel's grown so much.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my next question as to why you think it's doing well. And I think you've just answered that with the good content. What about promotion? Do you do any active promotion?
No, not really. I know some of the major players in Flat Earth, and you know, on both sides. So when I started off the channel, Liffey gave me a shout out, and I suddenly had 130 people subscribe to me, and that was kind of the start that I did. That was the Bathurst Lighthouse observation. I just remastered that too. But he liked that work that I did. He mentioned me on his one of his videos. And I got 100 new subscribers out of that. And I think it kind of took off from there. The word kind of got out that there was a new guy on the block that wasn't a jerk and actually had some decent science behind him.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about the story of how you got into doing flat earth videos. I know I did mention it briefly in the intro, but let's hear a little bit more.
Yeah, well, it's a combination of two things. One is kind of Wolfie's story. I would see things on YouTube like this, dipping your nose in order to fly, and not in, you know, why did this plane divert to Anchorage, Alaska instead of Hawaii? And I thought these were pretty simple questions. So I thought I'd come on out and maybe just settle some of those. And I'm a big believer in STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. And I think that we're not getting enough of that in schools right now. And, you know, I started seeing some of these videos being put out by people that didn't even understand the basic laws of motion. You know, all of this stuff about, well, how come it takes longer to fly west to east than it takes to go east to west, and with the rotation of the world? There's just a basic lack of understanding of relativity, relative frame of references, of motion, and things like that. And I thought I could help with some of that. Now, the other half that was a little different than Wolfie is that for several years now, I've really been involved in social media, and I tend to debunk things. We had a big shooting out in Las Vegas a little over a year ago, and there was a lot of talk on YouTube and on Facebook about how it had to be a conspiracy and this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, like, no, really, you know, how do you get all this stuff up there? Well, luggage racks. He probably had a bellhop take it up. And then, you know, these ISIS riots in Dearborn, Michigan. So I'd go and pull up the Detroit News from that day and say, well, yeah, there was something going on in the Muslim community there. They were actually having a picnic to raise funds for the victims in San Bernardino. And, you know, so I started debunking some of these things that were coming out. And I look at the flat earth community as just another thing that kind of needs to be debunked once in a while. And I think that we need to, replacing bad information with good is kind of a goal that I have. You know, I want people to be able to think critically, and I want them to make their own decisions, but I want them to have the right information to do it. You know, understand what real perspective is versus, you know, silly flat earth perspective.
Flurspective, it's called. Flurspective.
Perspective. Yeah, my original term was silly flat earth pseudo perspective, so I like perspective a lot better.
Yes, and you not just like debunking flat earth. That's just one of your favorite topics at the moment. Did you mention you wanted to get into like the anti-vax movement and things like that?
I've always been very interested in the anti-vax movement as a physician, and what I'm doing right now is I've started a series on, you know, what's a parent to do, and putting out the real information on vaccines. It's going to be a multi-episode series. The first one, you know, what we did was we talked a little bit about the history of vaccines, and then we talked about polio and smallpox. And as we go on, I want to get some of the lesser diseases like measles and pertussis and things like that, because these are very contagious illnesses. They're not as serious as, say, polio, but they infect so many more people that you're going to be getting complications, and people die of measles. People become sterile after mumps. And these are things that are important to know. And then I wanted to touch on some of the side effects of vaccinations, both real and imaginary. And I even wanted to speak about autism a little bit. Basically, I wanted to put together a series that parents could just review and get real information by somebody that doesn't really have a dog in the fight. You know, I don't do vaccinations. My children are vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. And, you know, I just wanted to give them something that they could get good information on rather than listening to some actress talk about autism and measles, mumps, and rubella.
Yeah. So have you actually started these videos, or this is a future project of yours?
Well, I did the first one. I've got the second one. I was going to try and take a little break from Flat Earth for a little while and do the second one. But then we had a couple of things that came out in the Flat Earth community, and I also remastered some of my earlier videos. You know, I've been making videos about 6 weeks now, and it's been a pretty steep learning curve. So I wanted to fix some of my earlier work that, you know, had good message in it, but crappy sound or something or other like that. I cleaned a few of them up, shortened them.
Yeah, I don't know. My original videos are still there. Maybe I should do the same thing because, you know, oh man, when I look at some of the original ones, I sort of like cringe a little bit. But anyway.
Yeah, they get. I looked at some of my original ones and they're kind of cringy, but you know, they're still up. They're just not listed, but the new ones are listed in their place.
You've just done a little piece where we're featuring D Marble, as I have done a couple as well. But
oh God, D Marble.
I'm just wondering whether you thought he was...
My brain is bleeding now. Thank you. I made me sleep. Now I need to go home and start drinking. All right.
Whether he's really is that stupid, or whether he's performing a ruse here.
No, I think he's stupid. I think Orphan Red is probably an intelligent woman. And I think that she is a bit of an actress, because I think she's a lot smarter than she lets on to be. D Marble, I think, is an idiot. I mean, just pure and simple, I think this guy needs to put a tag on his shirt so that people can figure out how to get him home if he gets lost.
So maybe we could all chip in, get him a shirt, you know, and says, yes, I'm an idiot, you know, something like that.
Please don't stress me. Yeah, you know, I did that one on D Marble because I'm sitting there listening to him, you know, like This is a guy that just doesn't understand that if you jump up, you're not going to hit the nearest westbound tree at 1,000 miles an hour because you're not physically attached to the earth anymore. He has no concept of motion. He has no concept of even middle school level physics. You know, it was amazing. And then we have the guys like Owen Benjamin. I just did a video for him because he's got this huge thing that he's going to have this big debate with some yoga instructor. What's his name? Debate?
Yeah, the father of flat, the modern day founder of flat Earth, I call him, Eric Debate.
Yeah, yeah. But he's going to have this great debate on the future of his version of reality with this yoga instructor. So I'm sitting here listening to him, you know, sit out there in this little campsite or wherever he is, and he says, well, help me do this. So, okay, so I made him a little video to help him out. And, you know, basically, my feeling personally is that he and Dubay worked this all up so that they could just get some publicity. You know, they're going to have this great back and forth, and they're going to build up to it. You know, I had never heard of Owen Benjamin before this all came out. And I don't plan on going back and revisiting him at all. But I think it's all just a game. So I was a good sport. I played along a little bit and gave him, well, if you're serious, here's some stuff you can use. You know, here's 6 different ways that you can check for rotation from the surface. So whether or not he'll do it. Now I found out that he was asking for people to debate the moon landings with him. And I decided, nah, just not. That's an hour of my life I'll never get back. You know, you can't counter faith with logic. And you know, I have this phrase that I use called faith-based logic, and you see that sometimes in the flat Earth community. You know, I mean, okay, well, here's the curvature; it's right here. You know, look, you know, it's right here, and they won't look at it. So
no, well, that's right. And
we just did that. You know, I just released a video on San Jacinto Mountain, that famous IR photograph that's all over the place.
Yes.
You know, they didn't spend 5 minutes on that thing looking at it. I mean, it's obvious that's a perfect demonstration of the globe.
Yes, that's right. And yeah.
And they'll still pass it on as being a flat Earth proof.
That's right. They can say anything. It's very easy to be a flat earther, I've noticed. You don't have to worry about the truth, facts. You can just make stuff up. You don't have to spend time researching. It's much easier than, you know, our job.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing that's really cool about being a flat earth is, you know, you'll put this video out, and somebody like me will come along and just spank you on it. I mean, completely debunk it in our lovely and constructive way, and just demolish your argument. And 2 days later, you'll just put out another video saying the exact same thing, hoping that I won't find that.
Yeah.
Or that nobody saw the first one.
It's
all you're like, God.
I noticed no matter how many times you debunk an argument, they just pretend it's never been debunked. They just keep recycling.
Well, the thing about it is this one was so obvious. And yet people like Riley and Nathan Oakley and DITRH just put this right out as a flat earth proof. And they never bothered looking at it. I mean, it's obvious. It's just the very tip top of the mountain. I mean, it's obvious just looking at it. I didn't even use math. I just lined the pictures up and say, look, there it is. You know, why are you still doing this?
It's beyond belief. I don't know.
I think they're either incredibly stupid and incompetent at any form of science, or they have another motive. I mean, they're just building a YouTube channel to try and get gullible people to support them financially. And, you know, the community talks about wanting to find truth all the time and critical thinking and this, that, and the other. Start using it. You have to respect evidence if you want to say it's science. If you don't respect evidence, it's simply not science.
Yeah, an interesting thing I find, well, obviously, they are the ones with the belief-based thing, and everything that they do that's wrong and unscientific, they actually accuse us of doing, which is an extremely interesting thing to me.
Well, you know, you get people like Riley that come on out and, you know, what's the other one? Quantum Eraser or whatever his name is. Well, where's your independent and dependent variable? Dude, do you know the difference between experimental and observational science? I'm taking a measurement. All right. This is a measurement. There doesn't need to be an independent and dependent variable. There are 20 different definitions of scientific method. So the thing that I do that really pisses them off to no end is say, I refuse to accept your definition, and I'm going to substitute one of my choosing from the 20 legitimate definitions. And, you know, I told you, I'm not accepting your definition. I'm going to use mine. And here it is right here.
Yeah.
You know?
So then...
And then they don't know what to say.
So what is your top... So let's just make it top 3 flat earth falsities, or you could rephrase it, say the most stupid flat earth things that you've heard.
All right. The most stupid flat earth things that I've heard. One would be that somehow if the earth is rotating, the atmosphere is not rotating with it. That just blows my mind that they can't comprehend that they both go together. The other one is just 2 words. All right.
Yeah.
Phuket word. This entire concept of the universe just blows my mind. All right. The idea that he's got this special perspective that he puts out and won't listen. You know, I sat down and I calculated the angle to Polaris, all right, on a flat earth, given his height of Polaris. And I showed that if you read a sextant based on his idea of how this was all set up on a flat plane, you'd be 1,700 miles off by the time you got to the equator. And you're like, dude, that's not what it is. And then I said, okay, well, if you're going to say that there's a dome over it and that's causing some refraction, great. Show me how you design the lens. Here's the calculation to do a refraction. Show me how you design the lens. And so far, they're really not capable of understanding how I trapped them with that. You know, most of the refractive indexes needed on that are less than 0.5. I want to know how to get a refractive index of less than 1. All right. You can't do it. You can't design a material that will do this. It's physically impossible. Yet, there it is. So we've got perspective and we've got the rotation of the earth. And then, I don't know, I think the next one would probably be just a basic misunderstanding of how motion works. You know, this all rockets don't work in space because you have to push against something. And if you jump up and down on an airplane, you'll go inside because it's a closed system. But if it's an open system, you'd fall off. And, you know, they don't understand the concept of wind resistance. But I think the biggest one for my number 3 is the fact that gravity doesn't exist. It's all buoyancy. And they don't comprehend the truth that buoyancy requires gravity. They can't comprehend it.
Yes, that's right. So I got one more question. This is a trick question. But,
uh-oh.
So is
it magic?
Who's your favorite flat earther?
My favorite flat earther. I would have to say Mr. Sleeping Warrior, Anthony Riley. You know, there's a couple of good contentions. You have Nathan Oakley is a great debater. He's a in-your-face debater. And then you have people like Ranty Flat Earth that just do my job for me. I mean, I get material from him. And then Phuket just gives me all sorts of of great inspiration on things to do videos on, because, you know, he just blows my mind with his lack of understanding. But Anthony Riley is probably my favorite one because he's so sincere and he's so stupid. He really does not know what he's doing, but he's got total confidence in it. And I like doing debates on him because he's such a smug, arrogant prick when he talks about other people. And then he gives them, you know, his thing on Conspiracy Cat, where he was debating, you know, turning him in for a violation of the Education Act of 1996 because, you know, he doesn't understand this seismic wave issue and how it's not science because it uses instrumentation, you know, it uses equipment. And, you know, I just love just saying, dink, and off you go, you know? So I just take him down a notch every now and then just because it's fun. It just gives me a personal sense of gratification. So other than that, and you know, the thing that I really love about doing this is the letters and emails and the comments that I get from parents and high school teachers and things like that saying, well, we're not going to talk about flat earth in class, but damn, you've got some really good ideas here and you've given me some ideas for lesson points. And, you know, you get the parents that have homeschooled children that are always looking for cool things to do. Well, how about you weigh the earth? You know, yeah. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. How about you go on out and show that the earth is rotating by watching the light come down the top of buildings, you know, and things like that, or disappear up the buildings and then see how it goes into the clouds. You know, I'm just one of those strange people, I think. I was driving home from my clinic last weekend up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and I'm out on US 2 at the northern tip of Lake Michigan. And I'm driving along the beach, and I look out, and my God, there's a, what do they call it? I just lost it right out of my head. But there was a very unique sunset going on, where you have the sun right on the edge of the horizon, and there was this sunlight that came straight up. Why can't I remember the name of it? But it's I'll put it in the comments. I'll send it to you a little bit later. You can just kind of stick it in. But it was just such a beautiful thing, and it was so unique that I had to pull over and stop, and I took some photographs of it. And of all of the cars on that highway, it was just me and one other guy that stopped to admire the wonders of nature. And I want more people out there that just not only recognize, but appreciate the wonders of the world that is around us. And it just, there's so much beauty out there, you know. You can almost see God in watching an aurora dance in the skies over Fairbanks, Alaska. I mean, it's just, nature is wondrous. Wondrous. And if I can infect one other person like Mr. Weber infected me, you know, I'll die a happy man.
Wow. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty cool. I have to agree with you with all of that. Nature is absolutely wonderful. And that brings, I'm actually out of canned questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, talk about at all?
Just one. Flat Earth is not a science. Flat Earth is a conspiracy theory and a movement. Okay? I think that a lot of people that get interested in Flat Earth do so because they want to find some inner truth. My suggestion to them would be, start with accepting evidence. Understand that your data leads to your conclusion. Your conclusions don't modify your data. And if you can learn to sit down and critically think through problems, I think that it will do you much better in life, and it'll be a life skill that's worth it. You know, this San Jacinto mountain picture took me 5 minutes to look at. I mean, it was obvious when I first saw it, but proving it took an extra 5 minutes. And if you'll just go through those things and go through those very, very basic steps, it'll serve you not only in evaluating science, it'll serve you in life. Evaluating relationships, evaluating business deals. You need to use critical thinking. And that's a life skill that everybody needs. And if they would just sit down and use it more, I think that would really be the end of the flat earth movement. And a lot of these conspiracies too.
Yeah, well, good advice. And as you said, it just only takes a few moments, few minutes normally to investigate something. Just do your research, as they would say.
Exactly. Do your own research, but actually do research. Don't just look for confirmational bias and look for stuff that'll support you. You know, it's like I can show you 1,000 studies that say polio is really bad and vaccines prevent it. And you'll find one study that sits down and says, well, somebody developed athlete's foot while in the study, so therefore I don't want my child to have the polio vaccine. You know, you need to be able to weigh risks and benefits. Every time we wake up in the morning, we take a risk. Walking out of the house, driving here today, it's snowy out, I could have a car accident. But I thought that the risk of me having a car accident was outweighed by the benefit of me coming in and finally getting to meet you and talk to your viewers.
Well, Bob, that's it's been a wonderful.
See, that's a tiny little risk. It's a big benefit, you know.
Okay. Well, that's it. As I said, I'm out of questions, and it's these interviews. I'd like them to not go on too long, and so it's been fantastic talking to you, Bob, and best of luck with your channel, and I'm sure you'll do very well from now on. See you later, mate.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I appreciate you getting up that early in the morning. Yeah, it's mid-afternoon here. It's like double, oh my God, it's early there. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
No worries, mate. We'll see you around the traps, eh?
All right. Well, you take care, and good luck to you from Northern Michigan. This is Bob the Science Guy signing out.